future trends, deep insights, industry leaders. This is the iGaming Next podcast with your host, Pierre Lindh.
Good morning, Nico. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Pierre. I'm still all good. I'm still awesome. So not a lot of things have changed since yesterday, but all good. Thrilled to start this little experiment with you. All good, all good. I'm just pumped up.
Yeah, same here actually. And we've been running the Clubhouse chats for the last 35 weeks together, and during each of these Clubhouse sessions, you have been doing this awesome wrap up of what's happening in the iGaming industry over the last week, and it's been a joy. I mean, it really keeps us updated on what is happening in the industry, the movements, and changes. And if after every session, there's always someone who comments about Nico's wrap up and how good it is or whatever. So I was thinking to start a new concept today together with you, obviously, where in the podcast format we can briefly go through the most interesting movements within the industry over the last week, essentially. And we'll just dissect it and yeah, like we see what happens, if this is something that's interesting to our viewers. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. So, but we would just start it as a dialogue, right? I would just read out the topics,
Yes.
literally touch down a little bit from the insights, and then we will just see where the discussion takes us, right? So all good. We're open-minded. We're very receptive to comments. So whenever we can adjust and change things, I'm happy to do so, right? It should be a value of all the listeners and people actually, listening to this podcast. All good, perfect.
Absolutely, I agree with you as well. So this is just a little experiment today. Hopefully people enjoy it, but do feel free to reach out to me and Nico and tell us what you feel about this, and we'll adjust and continue. So Nico, what do you say? Rapid fire news today, or shall we jump over to it straight away? What's your first bullet point on the agenda today?
Yeah, so the first bullet point is that the single event sports betting has officially launched in Canada last week on Thursday, so Friday, the 27th of August. Before this, you always were forced to at least combine three sports events with each other, so always starting with an accumulator. As of now, the repeal paragraph is 20074B. It's the Canada's criminal code. It has been updated. So as of now, even single bets are officially allowed in Canada. And this is now permitted by the British Columbia Lottery Corporation, BCLC. So we will for sure see even bigger operators just touching down in Canada. And as we already see big numbers being reported from the US and the US state by state side, I'm pretty sure that Canada will be next.
Right. It's very interesting. And actually, I was speaking to some American-based investors yesterday, and we are talking about our own events, and the events and conferences in North America, and they mentioned specifically that Canada is where it's at the moment. There's a lot of investors that are interested and curious about the iGaming industry at the moment, and so it really seems that market is shaping up to be something very special as well, just like the American market too. I mean, you're obviously on the sports betting side, Nico, of things. How do you think this will impact the Canadian sports betting market?
So for sure, some of the bigger operators who are touching down on US premises or North America, I'm pretty sure that they will also touch down on the Canadian market as well, right? It's the same language, pretty much the same language. It's pretty much the same sports they're interested in. It's the Canadian Football League. It's the National Football League. Of course, it's hockey. From my perspective, lots and lots of the operators will just take the Canadian market as a side effect based on how demanding, put it this way, demanding, especially if you think about the upcoming regulation in New York, which is just insane. And as soon as you are kind of not being interested in that specific market, talk about New York State, then Canada is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Can we give some context there? What's happening in New York at the moment? Because obviously the US is opening up state by state, and each state obviously has its own legislator and its own framework for the rules. But New York in particular is being very stringent, let's say, to the sports betting market. Can you give some context there?
Yeah, so New York is very specific, as they already announced they will just give out licenses to two companies, two operators, right?
Two operators.
Two operators.
Duopoly.
Exactly. So they will open up as duopoly, and guess what? There are two mainly fantasy sports companies which directly rush through our minds, right? Because why should you just open up for two? Why don't you open up for three, right? So as the dynamic duo is about to hit in New York, and how the actually runner-up process works is the state of New York, the Gambling Commission in New York, will decide based on their own earnings which operator will be granted the license. So as of now, I'm pretty sure FanDuel, they already released their offer, and they are announcing, or they are proposing 50% tax rate. And they're like, okay, we are probably one of the only one who can operate with this kind of tax scheme and still provide a competitive offering. So for sure, this is just insane, and it's already discussed and introduced by Katie yesterday, because she was like, when you are asked for the winners and losers within the next 3 years, she was quite specific in saying whoever gets the license in New York will be one of the losers. So from my end, it's like being able to do a shop in a very exclusive area, like the Maximilianstraße here in Munich, probably the Fifth Avenue in New York. If you just literally take this shop on a shop-by-shop basis and on the numbers this one and only shop just offers to you, you will never break even. And I don't see a possibility to break even with this kind of tax scheme. And guess what? It's just the first offer. Who tells us that the final offer won't be like, yeah, Bet365, they're like, okay, we offer the state of New York a tax scheme of 75%.
Yeah, exactly. Just to get the license. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Just to get the license. To get the license. So from my end, I'm pretty sure what the state of New York is doing is that no one will break even in the state of New York, right? Of course, you have the regular suspects applying the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the Bet365, the Caesars, and they will never break even in that particular state, and they will just use it as like, advertising this with respect to, yeah, we're alive in New York because we're able to offer it as our pockets are deep enough.
Yeah, right. It becomes a branding exercise instead. It's kind of like, also using New York as an example, McDonald's opening shop in Times Square. It's not necessarily because they are making a huge profit in Times Square, but it's obviously looks good from marketing perspective that they are in the melting pot of the financial district of the world. That's it. So Nico, that aside, very interesting movements in Canada and New York here, of course. Is there anything else that you have on your list today?
Yes, of course. So another huge numbers or record-breaking numbers. The Nevada gambling revenue reached a record high of $1.36 billion just in July. So we see numbers are just crazy over there in the US, and this July of 2021 is the most successful month for the state since gambling has been legalized in 1931. So it's not just an awesome number. It's the biggest number ever reported in the state of Nevada. And of course, Clark County, which is the home to Las Vegas, was responsible for nearly 92% with $1.16 billion in revenue. So it's all focused to Las Vegas, of course. And if you think about the overall licensing process and how gaming or gambling actually works in the United States, it's always bind to specific premises. So that's why a lot of the operators specifically sign up deals with NFL teams. Now the National Hockey League is also open to sports betting companies, because you're just allowed to offer sports betting in these particular premises. And of course, that's why a lot of people actually, or operators specifically, pitch for these premises, and the overall revenue is always bind to these small premises as well. So this gives us a little bit of a hint why specific revenues just happen in a very specific area as well.
Right. And it's, I mean, Vegas is back with a vengeance. In other words, I don't think anyone would have expected them to make such a comeback revenue-wise, so close into the pandemic, which is still undergoing, of course. And also something that's worth mentioning about Vegas is that they had their first major resorts opening in the last 10 years, since the last financial crisis, actually, which is World Resorts Las Vegas, that opened up just, I think, around 2 to 3 months ago, something along those lines. I don't know if you've seen it, Nico, but it's just this like mega high-tech construction that they have undergone, which is just incredible. They have this like massive LED wall like right built into the building, and it's an insane product that they have put together now in Vegas, and they open it up right in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm guessing that they are breathing a sigh of relief with Vegas bouncing back, because that's not a cheap product. And interestingly enough, it seems that these products seem to open up or being constructed right in the middle of some form of crisis, because it was the same thing with the financial crisis. If you remember, there was the what's it called in Vegas? There's the Aria product. It's a collection of buildings. The Aria is one of them, and the others that were being constructed right under the financial crisis in 2008, and they had to open those resorts before they were finished, because the investors were pulling out. Essentially, they were running out of money, and they needed to generate revenue in order to complete the project back then. Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy, isn't it? Right? And if you just think about it, specifically for Las Vegas, they fully opened up with full capacity already in June. Right? And in June, they reported even smaller numbers, and they were like, okay, so the overall revenue is dipping, and they were like, oh my gosh, people are scared. And then just 1 month later, it's record-breaking numbers being reported. So you see that things might get back to normal, which we actually all hope for, right? And if you just connect the bits and pieces, there are signs which literally tell you, okay, we are getting back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. People are ready now, I think, as well. And this is just another sign in that direction, for sure. And then you never know, this pandemic can still take new twists and turns, and we don't know exactly, if this is if this decision is too early and whatnot. And yeah, that's the ambiguity that we are navigating at the moment, all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially all the exhibitors. Right? If you just speak to people running an exhibition or aiming to open up an exhibition, of course, the SBC Summit in Barcelona is one of the upcoming things. Sigma is still on the line, IGB Live in Amsterdam. Then, of course, what you're about to host as well. As of now, it's just, you can't plan accordingly, because if things out of a sudden change again, all your plans are gone.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part for us as conference organizers. We're trying to navigate this situation and trying to host the events that we are putting on in a way where we can we can roll with the punches, so to say. And that the larger an event becomes, the more difficult it becomes to roll with the punches. Like take ICE, for example, in London in February. That event is has to have the world attendance. We have to have the attendance from the US. We have to have the attendance from Asia in order for ICE to be ICE. And so that is the challenge that they are facing, not only domestically, that restrictions will allow them to host the event, but also internationally with restrictions. It's not possible to fly to the US at the moment, and now the European Union recommended its member countries to restrict travel from the US as the US cases are spiking. And yeah, so sometimes it feels like we are nearing the end of this pandemic, but in reality, we might just be right in the smack middle of it still. Yeah.
Yeah, we might.
All right.
So
moving on.
Moving on, getting back to our topics. NFL madness. We could easily
NFL.
speak about NFL only, right? Teams specifically have been signed up by operators, as already said, based on the premises and where you can actually offer sports betting. So the NFL is about to start next week. What we already see is Arizona released their final licensee list, where, of course, premises are holding specific licenses. Teams actually applied for a license as well. And of course, the regular suspects as the BetMGMs, DraftKings, and FanDuels. And they already announced that they're getting a license last week. And so by the 9th of September, Arizona will start. What happened in Connecticut? They literally released an emergency sports betting regulation as well. And there you see each and everyone in the US is so thrilled about NFL madness. And that's why a lot of states actually lined up their licensing process. So it's all literally already in their pockets. And as they are running out of time, because NFL, they won't postpone nothing, because an operator or a state is not yet licensed or ready to hand out licenses. So I'm pretty sure within the month of September, we will for sure see even more states either finalizing on their regulation, their licensing, or releasing like these kind of emergency sports betting regulations, which we are already seeing in Connecticut as well.
Right, it's interesting that the states are targeting the launch of NFL. It makes a lot of sense, and just to bring some context to how big the NFL sports betting market is, and the seasonality in general of US sports betting. Catena Media, an affiliate company who works to acquire customers for the operators, they posted all-time high results for Q1, and the shares, they increased by like 150%. They were the best performing stock in the iGaming industry in the first half of the year.
Awesome.
Of the iGaming industry. However, this was very much because of the seasonality in sports betting in the US, because most of the revenue, 50% of the revenue in Catena Media comes from US affiliation. Right, so as this season ended in NFL, and now they posted a Q2 results, it was underwhelming instead, and the share has now fallen around 40% or something like that from its peak, all because the seasonality in the US sports betting revenue in the US really goes down to the floor during the summer, even though there is the traditional European sporting events like the Euro Cup, for example, and even in South America there was the Copa America, of course, and we have the Olympics in the summer. But even despite that, the revenues from U.S. sports bettors just tanks to the floor whenever the NFL season and the U.S. sports season is not there. So that just goes to show, how important the NFL season is, and for these states then to go live in time for the NFL season to begin.
Yeah, and one more statement to back your comment up was like Daniel Gretzer from sportsbetting.com, right? He kind of introduced us to the player value, the anticipated player value, right, where all the business plans to actually, we're about to launch our product in New Jersey. So this is the business plan which you literally present to your investors. And he was like, those anticipated player values for US players have already been pretty much insane. Fact is, the actual numbers have even been out of everyone's mind, right? So it has been mental. So even within your sweetest dreams, the reality was even nicer and even better for the operators. So whatever player value they hoped to get, the reality was even way better. And this literally underlines what you have just said with Catena Media, having a huge number in their K1 revenue coming from US premises.
Exactly. It's I think Daniel Grassner mentioned lifetime values of players of in excess of $1,000 or something like along those lines, which is completely unheard of, and European-facing operators cannot understand how this could ever be profitable. And that obviously in the long term begs the question, when is the US market going to be profitable? Because there's a long way to go for the likes of the DraftKings and the Flutters, obviously, to publish black numbers at the end of the day.
Exactly. Getting back to the NFL, of course, also the NFL, they approved 4 additional sportsbook with FoxBet, BetMGM, PointsBet, and WinBet. And as of now, there are 7 operators being approved by the NFL. Of course, you have the Caesars Entertainment, DraftKings, and FanDuel. So it's the Magic 7 as of now. What or why is it so specific or so nice, valuable to being labeled and officially announced by NFL? Because each sportsbook is allowed to purchase NFL in-game commercial units and other select NFL media inventory. So you're getting exclusive content from NFL by NFL, and the official broadcasters of Fox, CBS, NBC, and ESPN, they can exclusively, and only those are allowed to actually offer commercial spots during the game to those Magic 7 who are officially approved by NFL.
It's interesting. I remember back in 2019, Todd Haushalter, the CPO of Evolution, he was talking about, what can disrupt the iGaming industry. And one of his theories, it was, imagine if the Premier League or the likes of NFL or NBA or whatever, they decide that, no, we're going to do this exclusively. We're going to start our own sportbook, and no one can offer odds on our games, essentially, except ourselves. And I was thinking, I guess the industry can kind of draw a sigh of relief here as well, in the fact that doesn't seem to be the direction that the leagues are taking. They are instead choosing to partner with existing sportsbooks. So that's good for the industry, I guess.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if you just think about the NFL. I'm pretty sure it's the most valuable on a price, right? On a price level, most valuable league we have out there. So the entry barrier is quite high. The odds are quite high as well. To also back up what you've just said, who is running a market? Usually the company offering the statistics on a specific market or on a specific league. And what have we seen? Performance Group, they exclusively signed a deal with the European Handball League and Handball Group. So just think about if the Performance Group, the zone, now decides, okay, we will offer all the statistics, all the streams to one exclusive sports betting operator, or we will just run our own sports book. Then if you're interested in putting your bets on a Euro or a Euro handball match, it's only one operator. So you're getting exclusive content. And for sure, the price is even higher. If you think about German Bundesliga, Serie A, the Primera División, I'm pretty sure that Barcelona and Real Madrid, they are seeking for money, and they would pretty much sell out everything they can. And if this means like, okay, we're selling our exclusive rights to one operator, then I'm pretty sure they especially if they want to keep up Barcelona up and running. So if they are giving like 1 billion euros, possibly this could be a game changer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to take whatever business decision makes sense to them. And at the end of the day, they are not going to care about the iGaming ecosystem, of course. So fortunately for us, it's the business decision is to work with many partners. Nico, shall we take one more point today? What do you think?
Yeah, of course.
And we start to wrap up.
Yeah, brilliant. we already touched down on New York and New York licensing. There are 4 big states in the US, like California, New York, Texas, Florida. Florida already taken, New York about to being done. Texas, I'm pretty sure they did not yet consider sports betting as that important. They pretty much like to keep things as they are, but of course they're open-minded. But California, we see movements in California as well. As already stated, we have some magic 7 operators being approved by the NFL, and 7 operators, they launched a ballot measure to bring sports betting to California. What is a ballot measure? A ballot measure is, just let me look this up. It is a law, issue, or question that appears on a statewide or local ballot for voters of the jurisdiction to decide. As soon as 10% of the voters for the last election, which will be in California, roughly 1 million voters, then you can push something to the Senate, and then the Senate needs to decide. As of now, they are kind of sidelining sports betting a little bit, but with this ballot, sports betting might become a thing in California as well. And this ballot, the referendum, will be held by November 2022.
Right.
Thing is, within the ballot, the operators will face a 10% tax on adjusted revenue. So if you compare those 10% to the 50% who are already out there for New York, so for sure we will see a lot of movement in California as well. And if you just take a look at the GDP of California and rank just California in the worldwide GDP list, it is as big as the UK. Actually, the UK ranks as 5th. So one of the biggest GDP providing states of the world is about to open up for sports betting. And this is quite thrilling news. And this just hit the news, I think 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah, very exciting. And then I was just going to mention this as well, the classic quote that California alone is the 5th biggest economy in the world, right? So it's a massive prize. I mean, California, there's the big 4 states, but California is obviously the one big prize in the US. If that state opens up, it completely changes the game from an iGaming point of view. And I thought it was quite interesting here to list the 5 large economies in the world. So number 1 obviously is United States. Number 2 is China. Number 3 is Japan. Number 4 is Germany, your own country, Nico. And number 5 is California.
Yeah.
Followed by India, United Kingdom, France, Italy, Brazil. And so that is give some context, as you mentioned here, that we are talking about a market that is bigger in size than the United Kingdom, essentially, or slightly bigger, and obviously UK being a massive market for the iGaming industry. So I bet that the operators, suppliers, and anyone in the industry is keeping a very, very close eye in how things are developing in California, and seemingly positive news there as well, that they are not creating this monopoly or duopoly as in New York. It seems to be that they are preparing themselves for a wider opening, so to say. Very interesting.
Indeed.
Cool, Nico. Before we close off today, I just also wanted to share something that I found quite funny that happened in the last week in industry, and it's the fact that Evolution is now launching.
Yes. Let me take this off, because there are rumors going around, not yet been proved. All
right.
That Evolution just made some decent cash or money on buying Cryptopunks. And there are rumors going around that someone within this podcast handed over some insights before this kind of action being taken. Pierre, do you want to introduce us a little bit on this kind of rumor?
All right, fair enough, Nico. So before I tell this, I must say, like, I'm not going to take too much credit, as in, like, the fact that Cryptopunks was something really cool and something really big is not something that I have discovered per se, but it is an area that I'm very, very interested in, and I've been so for quite some time. Right. So what are Cryptopunks? And you might ask, and that is literally opening a can of worms, that question, because Cryptopunks is the first ever NFT project. NFT is such a hype word in general. So what are NFTs? NFTs is gives you the opportunity to own a digital asset that has not been possible before by securing it on the blockchain. And usually it's Ethereum that is the blockchain of choice for NFTs. So essentially you can write in an owner into the blockchain and tie it into a specific image, in this case, which is the specific Cryptopunks. And so the Cryptopunks, they are a collection of 10,000 different avatars, different images of pixelated images of people, essentially. And when you look at one, you think nothing of it, and it just looks like a random little avatar from whatever. However, these Cryptopunks have seemingly just exploded in value. People like to own them because they feel that they are part of something unique. Obviously, there's the speculatory value in these Cryptopunks, and they launched a couple of years ago, around 4 years ago. And at the beginning, people were trading them for $1, $2, $3, and they started increasing price. And someone paid $100, and wow, $100 for a picture, that seems crazy. And a couple of months ago, the cheapest, and I repeat, the cheapest Cryptopunk out of 10,000 of them was 40,000 USD. Okay, if you wanted to own the cheapest Cryptopunk, 40K. The most expensive, then, you might ask. Okay, I will tell you, Nico. The most expensive Cryptopunk was sold for $11 million. $11 million. It's insane numbers. And so this is a space that is interesting me in general, and there's so much hype around these NFTs, and obviously the crypto space is so much money in the crypto space flowing in constantly. And so me and Todd, we were having a couple of Aperol Spritz here a couple of months ago at this place, and we started talking about the Cryptopunks, and Todd hadn't heard about them, but I started telling him about it and showing him, and I told him, like, Todd, you should create an NFT slot. You should create a CryptoPunk slot. Buy a couple of CryptoPunks, and then you can use that as prizes in the slot. You know, it could be very unique. You'd be the first in the world who created and all of that. And Todd's eyes just lit up, like there was like an idea lamp over his head, you know, like a halo. Like, and he literally closed his fist. He bounced the table. He go like, we have to do it now. We have to do it now. and so he called his developer, and you know, it's like 11 p.m. on a Friday night, and it's like, we have to build an NFT slot. We have to do it now. And the CryptoPunks, we have to buy it. And they actually went ahead with it, Evolution, and they bought 4 CryptoPunks. Okay, but the story doesn't end here. Right, so they just announced the game. They just announced the game that is being released in middle of September. It's called NFT Megaways. Right, it's a really cool game or whatever. And so they bought these 4 CryptoPunks, and in the space of these 3 months that has passed, Evolution has now made. They now have an CryptoPunk collection that is now worth $1.5 million. So Evolution's adventure into the art space, and they invested something like $150,000. That same collection has now 10 doubled in value, and it's now worth $1.5 million. So Evolution is sitting on quite the art collection at the moment.
Oh my god,
that was quite funny. Yeah.
So the next time you probably meet up with Todd, he might take the check on his own, right? So whatever the invoice will be for some drinks and nice food in Malta, I'm pretty sure he probably will take the check.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to Todd. I mean, he's a proper visionary, and most people that hear these ideas, that you think they're a bit crazy, and they don't think much of it. So at the end of the day, you know, Todd is obviously the person who is pushing this through and made his team understand and believe in this and so on. But that being said, I don't expect to pay for the Aperol Spritz in the next 10 years or so. That's true.
A good one. And to quote Nelson Mandela on this one, it always seems impossible until it's done. And when it's done, it was always pretty obvious. But it takes those guys and girls literally seeing an opportunity and being able to actually get things done. They will always be seen as your overall madness. And in the end, when everything just worked out, it was like, yeah, it was just a walk in the park, and I could have done it as well, which you did not. That's the thing.
Exactly. That's it. You have to have the courage to take these crazy, gambles from time to time. And I think that's a beautiful way to end the news, the weekly wrap up today, Nico. I think actually, you know what? I'm gonna label this as a success. This concept. I had a great time today with you, Nico.
Likewise. It's always good seeing you, which we don't do during our clubhouse sessions, but
exactly.
Always thrilled to do this again, and I'm pretty sure we already lined up something next week, right?
Yeah, so I'm sure we have that. So obviously, a clubhouse taking place on the Thursday mornings. You know, anyone who wants to join them can join them and join our discussions. Of course, we are very passionate about this industry and the movements within it, and to learn and to look forward and so on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see everyone there. And Nico, yeah, like we said in the beginning here, to close things the way we started it. If anyone has any comments, suggestions for improvements, what did you think of this episode? Absolutely reach out to us and share with us what you thought. But the most important thing is that we had fun, and I think we accomplished that, Nico. So
we did.
Brilliant. So I'm gonna wish you a great weekend, my friend, and
likewise.
we'll see you next week again.
Okay. Enjoy yourself.
Take care of yourself.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.